We are continuing the semester review for geometry. We're going to get started on question number 8. Question number 8 says in the figure below, what is the value of x? I'm looking at a pair of parallel lines and I've got two transversals. So the first thing I need to notice is what kind of angles do I have and how can I solve for x? I notice that I have two angles along the first transversal, one along the second transversal, so I recognize that I don't need any of the information along that transversal. I'm dealing with the two angles labeled 4x and x plus 30. I realize that these angles are not congruent to each other, and in parallel lines, if the angles are not congruent, then they have to be supplementary. So I know that my two angles together have to add up to equal 180 degrees. So algebraically, I'm going to solve the problem 4x plus my x plus 30 equals 180. At this point, you could y1, y2 it and get your answer for what is x. This is one that you're going to have to record the answer. It's not a multiple choice. If you want to work out the algebra, you're going to combine your like terms to get 5x plus 30 equals 180. It's a two-step equation. We need to subtract 30 from each side of the equal sign. That gives me 5x equal to 150. The last step is to divide by 5, and that will give you your value of x equal to 30. Please make sure that you're recording that properly when you bubble it in. On this review, we don't have a bubble in, but you will have 3 or 4 on your actual exam. Question number 9 says, based on the diagram below, which statement is true? I go ahead and look at those answer choices first. Remember, the double vertical line means the word parallel. Answer choice A says A is parallel to B. Next, A is parallel to C. B is parallel to C. D is parallel to E. So I've got all these different lines involved in this diagram. I've got some angle measures. If I'm looking to see the angles that are involved, I notice that if I were to choose angle A and angle B, I need some more information about some of my angles. I know that vertical angles are always congruent to each other, so I know I have another 110 degree angle here. I know that the angles that are not congruent to each other have to add up to 180, so I can tell that I have a 70 degree angle here and here. I can tell that my 70 degree angle and my 60 degree angle are not congruent to each other. So A and B are definitely not parallel. If I look at A and C, I can tell that I have a 110 degree angle here. In a corresponding location, I have a 115 degree angle. Those two angles are not congruent, so I can tell that line A is not parallel to line C. My next choice is line B with C. If I'm looking at B and C, I need to get some angle relation that's together. If I'm looking at angle B, if I have a 60 degree angle, I know I should have a 120 degree angle. The 120 is not congruent to the 115, so B cannot be congruent, and cannot be parallel to C, sorry. The last question asks me possibly angle line D and line E being parallel to each other. When I take a look at the angles that I've marked, I have a 120 degree angle here. In a corresponding location, I have a 120 degree angle here. Those two lines are parallel because their corresponding angles are congruent to each other. So the correct answer for that parallel line problem is answer choice D. If I look at question number 10, it says which set of side measurements could be those of a triangle. You need to remember that for a triangle, If you add the small side plus the medium side together, those two numbers together have to be bigger than the biggest side is by itself. So if I'm looking at the numbers, the first thing I do is I circle the largest number so I can isolate that value of C. If I look at answer choice A, I've got 2, 3, and 5. 5 is my biggest number. 2 plus 3 is not bigger than 5. If I look at answer choice B, I have 3, 4, and 7. 7 is my biggest number. 3 plus 4 is not bigger than 7. If I look at answer choice C, 4, 5, and 10, 10 is my biggest number. 4 plus 5 is not bigger than 10. If I look at answer choice D, 11 is my biggest number. 5 plus 7, that's 12. 12 is bigger than 11, so answer choice D is the answer that I need. If I look at question number 11, again we're dealing with lengths of triangles. The lengths of two sides of a triangle are 7 and 11. Which inequality represents all possible values of x, the length of the third side of the triangle. You can recognize that when I find those sides of the triangle, I always subtract to find the smallest number, and they did that for you. 11 minus 7 will give you 4, and you always add to find the biggest number. You add that 7 plus 11, and you get 18. All of your answer choices have a 4 and an 18. Remember, though, that it cannot equal those numbers. It must be between. So if you're checking your inequality symbols, in answer choice A, notice that I have a less than or equal to symbol. I don't want that equal to part. Anytime the symbol's underlined, it means equal to. Can't have that. Answer choice B, one of the symbols is also an equal to. Answer choice C, one of the symbols is equal to. The only one that cannot equal, x is only between 4 and 18, is answer choice D. I'm looking at question number 12. A student wants to build a triangular vegetable bed with sides that are 7 feet, 8 feet, and 10 feet long. Which of the following best describes the vegetable bed? We want to know, can it be an acute triangle, a right triangle, an obtuse triangle, or you can't form a triangle? Again, you're comparing the small and the medium together to the large by itself. My largest is 10. So the first thing I want to know is, can I form a triangle? If I add together 7 plus 8, is that bigger than 10 by itself? Yes, it definitely forms a triangle. So you know it's not going to be answer choice D. Once you recognize that it can form a triangle, you want to know what kind of triangle can it form. And to find what kind of triangle it can form, remember you're comparing that a squared plus b squared together to the c squared by itself. So I want to have 7 squared plus 8 squared, and I want the 10 squared by itself. So in my calculator, I'm just finding out what 7 squared plus 8 squared is. Oops, sorry. 7 squared plus 8 squared, and that's going to give me 113. 10 squared I know is 100. 113 is bigger than 100. If the a squared plus b squared is bigger together than the c squared is by itself, I know that my triangle should be acute. Question number 13. I have 3 towns connected by straight roads as shown in the figure. Nick is driving from Crestfield to Seaview. We don't know which route he's taking. It says, what is the greatest whole number of miles Nick may have to drive? He can either go the long way or the shortcut. If I look at this long way that he's going, notice that this is a 4.5 miles and this is a 3.2 miles. The typo copy didn't turn out very well. If he goes the long way, he's going to have 4.5 plus 3.2, which is 7.7. If he goes the short way, it'll be a smaller number than 7.7. So the greatest whole number, the part that's in front of the decimal of the miles he would have to drive, is going to be 7 whole miles and then maybe a partial mile. Question number 14. We want to find the measure of angle A in the following figure. We're given all 3 angles with algebraic terms. We know they have to add up to be 180 degrees. So I know I want to add my A, B, and C together to equal 180. I have to solve for x first, and once I find x, then I can substitute it back in to figure out the measure of angle A. So I'm going to be adding my 15x plus 1 plus my 6x plus 5 plus my 4x minus 1. If I add those terms together, I want them to end up equaling 180. It's easier for me to add them in columns this way. If I'm adding 1 plus 5 minus 1, I get a 5 for my constant term. If I add 15x plus 6x plus 4x, I get 25 x's. I've got a 2-step equation to solve, or you could put it in y1, y2 in your calculator. If I'm solving my 2-step equation, I'm subtracting 5 from each side of the equal sign first. That will give me 25 x's equals 175. I need to divide each side by 25. And that will give me a value of x equals 7. Please note that's not the answer to the question being asked. Answer choice D, 7, is the answer for x. I want the answer for the question, which is angle A. Angle A is 15 times that value of x, 7, plus 1. 15 times 7 plus 1 is 106. Please don't get confused on the exam. When they give you an answer for x, that's one of your answer choices, always make sure to answer the question that's being asked. Question number 15. In the diagram, I've got triangle LMO is isosceles, and they're giving me the information that the length of segment LO is equal to the length of segment MO. So I'm going to mark that on my diagram. If I have 2 sides the same, I know that I also have 2 angles the same, so I can mark that 55-degree angle on my diagram also. The question says, if the measure of angle L is 55 degrees, which is marked, and the measure of angle NOM is 28 degrees, what is the measure of angle N? This angle right here is where my question is. I know a triangle adds up to 180 degrees, so the first thing I need to do is figure out this obtuse angle here with a vertex at M by taking 180 minus 55. That'll give me 125 degrees for this angle. I now have 2 angles in my triangle, and I need to find the third angle. So I'm going to add the 125 plus the 28 together, When I add the 125 plus the 28, I get 153. I need to take 180 minus